The conviction this week of a former Labor minister was always going to have political ramifications. Gordon Nuttall was found guilty of receiving kickbacks from businessman Brendan McInerney between 2001 and 2006. In Parliament, the opposition tried to link the case to the government, which in turn tried some linking of its own, comparing the LNP to the Conservatives in the UK. Chris O'Brien reports.
We are going to bring the years of ever-rising borrowing to an end. We are going to ensure, like every solvent household in the country, that what we buy we can afford.
Oops, wrong Parliament. That's the UK Chancellor George Osborne in the House of Commons. Still, from one Parliament to another, as far as Labour is concerned, a Tory is a Tory.
What are the Tories doing in the UK, Mr Speaker? Slashing and burning, cutting jobs, half a billion jobs, half a million jobs.
Take a look on the other side of the world right now and you see what the Tory plan would do, Mr Speaker. If you want to continue to fund coal ports, Mr Speaker, then you're going to take a hat to what the UK Tories are doing. Just look at the experience, what's happening with their Tory mates over in the UK. Where they up there. They want to cut child safety officers.
So the logic seems to be if the Conservatives are planning cuts 16,000 kilometres away, they must be planning cuts here too. And not only the UK, the Governator is wielding the razor too, apparently.
In this year's budget, Governor Schwarten cut $1.3 billion funding for Medi-Cal, California's free health program for the poor.
For the record, Irish government cuts got a mention too. So that was Labour's theme this week. But the other side is also good at choosing a line and sticking to it. Someone in the opposition office has come up with a label for the government. See if you can pick what it is.
I ask the Premier, can she confirm that the state's debt under the long-term Labor government will be more
long-term Labor government
of this toxic long-term Labor government?
A new theme emerged late in the week when former Labor Minister Gordon Nuttall was convicted of corruption and perjury charges. The opposition tried to spread the blame.
I refer to Labor Party bagman Brendan John McInerney, who corruptly paid off a Labor minister right under the Premier's nose. And I ask, has the Premier sought assurance from her current Labor Cabinet colleagues about any dealings they had with Mr McInerney between 2001 and 2006? And will the Premier reveal what those assurances are?
The government says Mr Nuttall was a lone wolf. And furthermore, they say Mr McInerney had links to the other side too in the 1990s.
Mr Nuttall could not be in jail if it had not been produced in evidence that he had secretly covered up his activities. It is the secrecy of his activities that brought him into the problem that he is in, Mr Speaker.
This Brendan McInerney, Mr Speaker, was then working for one Mick Vivas, who was the Emergency Services Minister.
Now to another lesson on parliamentary tactics. Here's an opposition question about internal Labor strife around asset sales.
I refer the Minister for Public Works to the article that he wrote for the Courier Mail, where he attacked loyal Labor Party member Peter Simpson. Mr Speaker, I ask the Minister, does the Minister believe that it is part of his ministerial duties to pen vicious personal attacks against working-class people who stand up to the government's privatisation agenda?
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Order.
I've been waiting for this one.
Order.
Come in, Mark.
No, order.
That's not counted as one of ours.
Order. Both sides of the House.
Yeah.
I am desperately anxious to hear the reply from the Minister.
And I'm desperately anxious to give it, Mr Speaker.
And give it he did. His colleagues wanted more.
Mr Speaker, I move an extension of time so the Minister can be further heard. No questions.
Good.
10 minutes worth by my clock, 7 minutes longer than usual for question time.
The Nicklin government enticed the coal industry here with 3 public subsidies. First of all, the greatest of them all, the greatest rort and the greatest thing done to working people in this state was to use public housing funds to subsidise houses for wealthy coal miners.
Mr Speaker, I rise on a point of order. I call your attention to the comment that the Minister made that QR was a rort, and I move that the Minister's statement be incorporated in the prospectus for the QR float.
The parliamentary year is winding down, only one sitting week to go late next month. Still time for the government to mock the opposition leader.
It sort of reminds me, Mr Speaker, of Monty Python and the Holy Grail and the Bridge of Death, Mr Speaker. And the night when you were there and he had to answer 3 questions and then you could get across the Bridge of Death. Well, the Leader of the Opposition is there, Mr Speaker. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And he was there, African or European, Mr Speaker. And that is what he'll be doing whenever there's a policy question, Mr Speaker.
And for Mr Langbroek to strike back.
The Treasurer has presided over the biggest increases in the cost of living ever experienced in this state will be promoted to the leadership once the current Premier walks forlornly from the smoking wreck of the Labor government, Mr Speaker. The Treasurer, or Mr Speaker, Captain Smug, as his colleagues refer to him, will apparently take the job that nobody else wants.